Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 2, Conceptual Analysis of Peace and Conflict. And our topic is the civil society, dimension and peace. In the preceding pages, the role of the political state as the final agency dealing with conflict in society is discussed. Its efforts towards restoring peace through the gradual evolution of diverse institutional devices are also analyzed. Yet, the fact remains that conflict in society is always present, and the state, it seems, always has to cope with this given situation. There are, however, other institutions in the society which also play a role in containing conflict and resorting peace. This set of institutions, sometimes networks of institutions, is called civil society. The theory of the relationship between the state and civil society is a changing one. Over the last 3 centuries, there have been varying theories about this relationship. We will examine this in some detail in the next unit, dealing with the intra-societal and inter-societal conflict. Here, it suffices to note that in recent decades, the civil society as an entity distinct from the state has emerged as a strong force reckoning with conflict resolution. Partly, this is due to the perception among some sections of the societies within states that the latter are not capable enough to cope with conflict, or are themselves pursuing socio-economic policies directly or indirectly contributing to conflict. Whatever be the precise reasons, the point is that diverse associations, groups, and organizations now operate attending to various functions in the social sphere. Non-government organizations, NGOs, community welfare organizations, and other such institutions undertake many programs of work ranging from public health promotion, minority right protection, providing legal aid to poor people, making people aware of their rights, acting as watchdogs on governments, to promoting national integration. They are mostly non-profit making institutions deriving funding from the charitable trust both from within the country and abroad. In this role, some of the NGOs act as complementary organs to government. Some others do pursue programs in competition to governmental agencies, and some even act as advisory institutions, challenging the state's institutions. These issues were examined further in the next unit. Now, the next topic, negative and positive conceptions of peace. In the foregoing pages, the terms peace and conflict are clarified. It would bear some repetition to state that ideally peace is a much wider concept than the absence of conflict. At the same time, there is a big constraint that conflict, whether pertaining to the individual inner self or to conflict between individuals or to conflict between communities, cannot be totally eliminated. What can be done is to contain conflict. Towards this goal, all civilizations have made variety of efforts, either through religious prescriptions or other ideological and institutional devices. It is in this context of the interdictability of conflict that a theoretical distinction between negative and positive conceptions of peace arises. Kenneth Boulding, one of the pioneers of peace research, makes a significant analysis of the positive and negative aspects of peace. He says on the positive side, peace signifies a condition of good management, orderly resolution of conflict, harmony associated with mature relationships, gentleness, and love. On the negative side, it is conceived as the absence of something, the absence of turmoil, tension, conflict, and war. It will be observed that Boulding is not identifying positive peace with a state of affairs where all tensions and conflicts are eliminated. On the contrary, it is his idea of negative peace that is conceived as the absence of turmoil and conflict. It is to be noted that to him, positive peace is identified with good management of conflict. Here, the adjective good is very critical to analysis. For even in negative peace, there is a task of management of conflict. But this management can also be take the form of ruthless suppression of conflict by the state. After all, often the word pacification is used to connote establishment of peace by militarily suppressing conflict, or conflict is also managed by the pacification through appeasement of the enemies. At the farthest extreme is the peace of the grave. Balding himself reminds of the fact that the phrase rest in peace engraved on tombstone connotes the peace of emptiness or one of withdrawal from reality. Thus, neither ruthless pacification nor appeasement nor the peace of emptiness can remotely be equated with peace in the positive sense. In other words, it is the way of managing conflict that is central to the distinction between positive and negative conceptions of peace, and not simply the presence or absence of conflict. Another way of distinguishing negative and positive peace, slightly at variance with Bowling's analysis, is to regard that the negative concept refers to minimization of conflict at all levels, if not its complete elimination. Positive peace, on the other hand, would refer to a condition where concrete efforts are made to circumvent the manifest and latent effect of conflict conditions. It should be realized that even this distinction between negative and positive peace does not resemble a zero sum game situation, because even under the positive category, the total absence of conflict is not categorically implied. Given this conceptual difficulty, it would be proper to say that negative and positive conceptions of peace resemble a mini max game situation, wherein under the negative category a more restricted scope for containing conflict is implied, whereas under the positive category a far more comprehensive successful endeavor is implied in tackling conflict. The example of the laissez-faire state, popularly called the law and order or police state on the one hand and the welfare state on the other, illustrates our point well. The first category denotes the negative conception of peace, while the second denotes the positive conception. The dichotomy is even more relevant at the interstate or international plane. If instead of the word conflict and peace we employ the words war and peace, the dichotomy become more apparent. It is already noted that mere absence of war does not result in the sustained prevalence of peace, though the former is the necessary condition for the latter. Later needs to be more sufficient set of conditions. This aspect of the problem will be figured in the following unit, where the subjects of intrastate and interstate conflicts are discussed. Now let us have a look at the summary of the unit. We begin this unit by examining the origin of the concern with peace and conflict and the interconnectedness of these concepts. As we saw, it is rather difficult to state which concept, peace or conflict, comes first, while citing broad instances of spiritual and religious thinking, linking peace and conflict with the concept of good and evil, virtue and vice, which we have also referred to the relationship between peace and conflict in the individual mental processes and their manifestation in the interaction among the individuals in societies large and small. The second section analyzes peace and conflict as pertaining to the social order. It focused on the various methods by which society copes with the challenges of peace and conflict. And we noted both the state as well civil society have a role in controlling and even prevention of social strife. The state, also loosely called the government, as the chief regulatory agency, has been in existence since time immemorial in almost all societies. As we noted, the state has been more concerned with containing conflict than in avoiding or preventing conflict. And containing conflict is expressed in terms of very familiar phrase, maintenance of law and order, which also is characterized as the minimalist or minimal conception of peace. With the rise of welfare state, the functions of the state have expanded. With this, there has been a broadening of the conception of peace and conflict. The unit also discussed the concepts of negative and positive peace and their varying meanings. Which emerges from the analysis is that in actual practice, peace can best be discussed in terms of absence or prevention of conflict, though the phrase prevention of conflict is itself a very broad term open to narrower or broader standpoints. Now we want to wind up this lecture and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you so much for your attention.